everyone, today we're looking at the Everlasting Wet Palette by RedGrass Games. Wow, well, I've wanted one of these for quite some time, and I've been lucky enough to be sent one for review, and hopefully as well we're going to be giving one away shortly in a giveaway with the channel, so that's exciting news too. But in the meantime, I've heard great things about this, but I've never actually seen one up close, so we're going to dive into the box, see what's in there, give my first impressions, and then expect to see this on painting tutorials over the coming weeks, because I'll be definitely using this wet palette as I learn the ways of glazing, etc. First off, arrived nice and safe, packaged really well, comes in this wonderful cardboard box, states on the reverse essentially how to basically use it, gives the dimensions of it, how to save the paint, you know, talks about the different layers now about it. It's super clever. I've used a wet palette before, all of that's great advice. Generally with the paper, in the past I've had to kind of put a paint pot in each corner to stop it curling. We'll see whether any of this happens with this stuff, but let's get in the box. It's pretty packed well, this actually, so quite pleased to see that. Ugh. Okay, nothing else in there. Everything in here. Opening up, we've got a few things. We've got 50 hydration paper sheets, so this is the wet palette paper. They're trimmed specifically to the size of the palette and the shape of the palette as well, with these little corners cut off. This is for the painter size as well. I should mention there's actually two sizes by RedGrass Games. One of them is much larger, or quite a bit larger anyway, but I think I'm quite happy with this size. I don't like to take a lot of my desk up anyway, so I think this is perfect for me. Two of the hydration foam pack. Quite like that, the fact that they're neutral grey. There's a bit of moisture in that pack. That's interesting. So obviously that maybe comes like that just to kind of stop the foam from drying out. That's really interesting. Another pack of 50 papers, so that's 100 sheets in total. Great. That should last some time, because I've heard great things about how long these things take to work. And then we've got the palette itself, little band, and probably one of my favourite additions, this little widget here, which is for, you know, obviously creating your custom glazes and stuff on the side. We'll dig into these one at a time then, so let's get the lid off. So, wow, it's pretty tough actually, and it seals. I can hear the seal on it slightly, but so that's the lid with a rubber seal all around. So that's what keeps it nice and moist throughout. And a good solid tray, it's beveled at the bottom. Okay, and there's the magnet points on each one of them. So let's just maybe start by making this up. Oh, okay, there's quite a bit of space around the outside actually, so it doesn't just sit right up to the edge. That makes sense, because in previous wet palettes when I've put the paper down it actually expands, and sometimes you can kind of get it curling up the side of the tray, so that's good. And again, I assume the papers are actually the same size as the foams. Before we get the lid back on for a second, let's pop this little widget open. So this is quite cunning. That's nice. That's really nice. Oh, had a magnet pop out. I don't think that's the end of the world. I'll put a bit of glue in there. It looks like a little bit of glue's come loose. And to be honest, this is a hobby desk. I think I can find a bit of super glue, but you know, I'd rather it have not popped out, but you know, it's not the end of the world. Like I say, I can sort that out, and it's easy enough just to do that. Pop some glue in there and pop that back on. But nice idea, certainly. The idea of this as well is there's an interesting shape to this, where it's got this sort of curved bevel, and at various points you can use it to support your brush like that, but you can also you know, keep your brushes like that as well. So there's this little bevel here which keeps them centered. Why don't we just go forward and set it up and see what it's like getting it set up. And actually just cut this off. Let's get one of these foam pieces out. Yeah, it is slightly damp, so clearly there's something about transporting it damp. So I'll tell you what, I'm definitely not going to open up the second foam. I'm going to leave that in its nice sealed pack. There you go. And then Let's get some water in this. I'm just going to put a little bit of water on, and I know it says to completely soak it, but I'll just, right now I'm just going to get it for the purposes of the review. Plus I've only got a little bit of water on my desk, so it is soaking in. It is very interesting how it works. So it can take a while by the looks of it to get the water in. Let's just take that off with its magnet. See, what I would normally do is I would get it wet. Okay, let's get a bit more water in there. I'm going to try folding it like that. And putting a whole bunch of water underneath it as well. So it really does take some time to soak the water up, which I'm not complaining about at all, because if it takes this long to absorb the water, it will hold on to the water just as well. That took a huge amount of water. It was about 3/4 of this bottle, and I think this bottle is a 250ml, maybe 500ml bottle. So wow, yes, in fact that's a 500ml bottle. So, and it took about 2/3 of that. So that's a huge amount of water soaked up into that foam. That's incredible. What I'm going to do now is try dropping a paper on there, and we'll see which happens. I'm going to take it out the bag face up and just drop it straight on. Okay, we're getting a little bit of curl. That's something I mentioned. We're getting some expansion as well. Look, I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of, you know, opening up. That's quite incredible. It's very flat. No trouble to tease the paper down at all. No standing pots on top of it to stop it curling on itself. It's stretched over the foam. I have to say, you know, if I was going to be a little bit critical, it's kind of like the paper's not quite covering the foam. I think my foam is spread out a little bit. I'd rather paint not get into the foam, to be honest, but I'm sure it's no problem at all just to kind of rinse out and wash. And you know, the trick is with wet palettes anyways, just don't put paint near the edges, you know, just use this central area here. So there you go. Overall, I think I'm a little bit wet, you know, if I push down hard, but I don't think it's that bad at all. Yeah, there you go. Let's get the lid on it. Okay, so that's meant to keep it nice and sealed and tight. I suppose I should do a little bit of a review. Construction seems solid. Okay, I had a magnet drop out, but seriously, I'm not worried about that. That was a little spot of super glue and problem solved, so you know, it's not the end of the world, and I dare say that happens to probably less than 1 in 100 magnets maybe, and even so, dropping a little bit of super glue in a hole isn't really a problem. The construction itself is great. It's nice and solid, it's nice and flat. It's a good size actually, you know. Let me just give you kind of an idea of the scale of it. I think it's a great size. I'm really looking forward to it. I love the fact that, you know, depending on how you work, and you can kind of swap this to different sides, or, you know, bring it round to the front. So if you're mixing paints and if you're mixing a glaze, you can kind of work here and at the same time be working over here, or depending on how you want to work, if this is better orientation for you. I love the fact they've given it that much thought, and there's multiple ports as well, so if you wanted 2 of these, say. The only thing is, I would have maybe liked to have seen is if they'd have daisy chained these, so if the magnet mount was on both sides, would have been nice, because I could have put a second one there. You know, and it's not often I'm kind of mixing more than 5 or 6 glazes at a time, but it does happen. So it would have been nice to kind of extend, you know, a second one. Saying that, of course, you can just get a second one and mount it that side, and you're kind of working on both sides. That's not the end of the world either. But yeah, a slight, you know, request for version 2 maybe is a good way of looking at that. I really like the fact it just acts as a little store for your paint as well. And the fact you can keep a bit of medium and water in there as well if you're just actually sort of diluting slightly as you work. It's brilliant. I love it. Also, noticeably, that doesn't get in the way of you securing the lid down as well, because these are mounted below that level. Okay, so as I said, that was the first impressions thing, and first impressions are good. I will definitely be putting this through its paces over the next few days, so I'll probably just keep people updated on the Monday musing, but you know, after a few months I might just come back and revisit this and talk about how I'm getting on with it and any hints and tips I've picked up with working with it. Alright, hope you've enjoyed that. See you soon.